Hello, Marilyn. Not allowed.
No.
Not allowed. You got those fun ones with the architecture. Evening, Jared. Don't like the looks of that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the appointed hour of 7 o'clock, and welcome to the August 4th edition of the Lexington City Council meeting. Thank you all for being here. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all will stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Next item is consideration of the agenda. Members of council have any additions, corrections, novel ideas? And unless there's an objection, we will approve the agenda as presented. And have no proclamations this evening, but I'll work on that for the next meeting. Under presentations, we'll jump to, and I'll call on Bonnie Riedesel with the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission. Bonnie, welcome. It's good to see you in Lexington. I always see you in Stanton, but thanks for making the trip down.
Thank you very
And
much.
You can pull that closer
so-
to you there.
okay,
Yeah.
I see.
There
Okay,
you go. Thank you.
All right, well, good evening. I'm Bonnie Riedesel, the Executive Director of the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission, also known as a PDC. Also with me is Olivia Rains, our Housing Program Manager. Thank you for inviting us here tonight to tell you a little bit about the PDC and the work that we do. Planning District Commissions were established by the General Assembly in 1969 under the Regional Cooperation Act of 1968. The PDC was chartered in September 1969, and a few years ago, we celebrated our 50th anniversary. The purpose of Planning District Commissions, written into the Code of Virginia, is to encourage and facilitate regional solutions to problems of area-wide significance. In other words, our mission and our reason for existence is to serve our local governments, cities, counties, and towns by providing high-quality planning, technical assistance, and facilitation services that address local, regional, and state needs. There are 21 PDCs in the Commonwealth. We are the largest PDC geographically. We like to say we're larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. And we're the 5th largest in population. When we were established in 1969, the population of our region was 186,000 people. Today, it's 308,000 people, an increase of 122,000 people in just 50 years. Our region includes the 5 counties of Augusta, Rockingham, Rockbridge, Bath, and Highland, the 5 cities of Stanton, Waynesboro, Harrisonburg, Lexington, and Buena Vista, and the 11 incorporated towns within. We are governed by a board of commissioners. Commissioners are appointed by their respective governing boards and serve a 3-year term. Lexington's representative is, of course, Mr. Frank Friedman, who has also served as our chair for the past 6 years. Half of our board members are elected officials, and the remaining members are either local government staff or citizen reps. There are 21 board members on our commission, and currently we have 16 employees. Our offices are centrally located in Stanton at McTanley Place. So what do we do? The PDC provides planning and technical assistance to our 21 jurisdictions in our region with issues including land use planning, transportation and public transit, bicycle and pedestrian planning, water and wastewater utilities, affordable housing, community and economic development, disaster mitigation and education, and environmental services, and much more. If you name it, we've probably involved in it. We receive our funding from a variety of sources, including federal agencies like EDA, FEMA, Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway, and others. We get state funding as well from VDOT, Department of Housing and Community Development, DEQ, Department of Health, and others. And then we also receive funding from our local jurisdictions based on a per capita assessment. I'll quickly go through some of our key programs. Almost everything we do falls under the umbrella of economic development. As the leading regional planning entity, we have developed the region's economic development plan known as the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Having an approved CEDS unlocks federal and state funding that's invaluable to our localities. We've also just completed a pandemic resiliency and recovery plan that complements and supplements our CEDS plan, and we hope to launch that this month. These plans, and as well as all of our other regional plans, are found on our website. Also on our website, if you're interested, we have a regional data center. You can find out anything you want demographically, if you will, about all of our localities, what the population is, what the demographics are, what the high school graduation rate is, what the unemployment rate is. We have 175 different measures that you can learn about your particular locality or sub-region or the entire region. One of the publications that we produce is called Facts and Figures, and you have a copy of that before you. Facts and Figures contains the most recent available economic and demographic data for each of our sub-regions. Lexington is lumped in with Rockbridge and Buena Vista. Another economic development program that we assist with that you may be familiar with is called Go Virginia. The PDC is one of the support organizations for Go Virginia. Go Virginia is a statewide initiative that was established about 5 or 6 years ago that provides incentives to encourage regional collaboration among business, higher ed, local government, workforce, and economic development. There are 9 Go Virginia regions in the state. We're Go Virginia region number 8, and it includes our 10 localities plus the 6 localities in the PDC north of us. So it's a super region. To date, the Region 8 Council has funded 15 projects. A few of them that you might be familiar with in this area include a certified welding program in Rockbridge County down in the Glasgow area known as RAMP, a cybersecurity jobs program at Blue Ridge Community College, where we've graduated over 50 students in the cybersecurity industry, JMU's hemp study, and the Agricultural Innovation Center in Buena Vista. All of these projects are focused on creating high-paying jobs in our targeted sectors. One of the largest program areas, isn't that a beautiful picture of I-81? One of the largest programs is transportation planning. We provide transportation planning services such as grant writing, technical assistance, multimodal studies, corridor and gateway studies, and other long and short range transportation plans. Our office administers and staffs 2 MPOs. Those are Metropolitan Planning Organizations, the Stanton Augusta Waynesboro MPO and the Harrisonburg Rockingham MPO. Since the Lexington Rockbridge Buena Vista area isn't large enough to be considered an MPO, it has to be a certain size and 50 population or 50,000 population or over. We also offer a rural transportation program for those localities outside of an MPO. To give you a couple of examples of the type of work that we have been involved in and have helped Lexington with through our rural transportation program include the Route 11 North Sidewalk Study, the North Main Street Streetscape Project funded with Smart Scale, VMI's South River Bridge Replacement Project on the Chessie Trail, and years ago, the Brushy Blue Greenways Plan. Those are some of the programs that we can help a locality with that's in a rural area with transportation planning. We also support the I-81 improvement program that sets up funding for improvements along the I-81 corridor. This program will fund about $2 billion worth of projects over a 10-year period. And Mr. Friedman serves on the I-81 committee representing the localities in our PDC region. Another area that we're heavily involved in is public transit. Since 2013, we've been responsible for the management of the public transit system that operates in the Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro area. It's known as BRIGHT. BRIGHT Bus operates throughout Stanton, Augusta, and Waynesboro with 13 buses and 7 fixed routes, serving those cities, Stewart's Draft, Fishersville, Augusta Health Hospital, Wilson Workforce Rehab Center, and Blue Ridge Community College. Last September, we launched a new service called Afton Express. Afton Express is a commuter bus system that connects the Valley with the Charlottesville area. We have 3 buses outfitted with Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, bike racks that run 4 routes in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, back and forth 5 days a week, getting people to work from the Valley over to Charlottesville, and a few people from Charlottesville over to the Valley to work. Standard fares are $3 one way, and with the gas prices the way they are, ridership is way up. Both these systems, BRIGHT and Afton Express, provide vital services to the citizens of the area to get to work, school, medical services, and other daily activities. I know you all have your own RATS program here, operated, I think Radar provides that service for you, very similar. We also have a bicycle pedestrian program known as Bike the Valley. It provides a coordinated and strategic approach to developing a network of bikeways, trails, and greenways, and makes recommendations for improvement for these facilities. On our website, bikethevalley.org, you can find a wealth of information, including over 40 mapped bicycle routes, both on-road and off-road, information about bicycle events and organized rides, as well as safety information for both the cyclist and the motorist. Another program area is emergency management. We have an emergency management program that focuses on 3 key areas: emergency management planning, preparedness and education and outreach, and hazard mitigation. We developed and maintain the region's all hazard mitigation plan, which identifies the natural hazards that impact us, like flooding, wildfires, and makes recommendations to reduce those impacts. The PDC assists communities in the region with mitigation projects to protect people, homes, and businesses through floodproofing, elevation, relocation, and acquisition of homes. Many of our flood mitigation projects have been in this area, the Glasgow area, Buena Vista, South River, after the devastating floods of the 1990s. A number of our planning projects involve natural resources protection, such as the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Improvement Plan. We're currently assisting the state in meeting the EPA's mandate to clean up the Chesapeake Bay by the year 2025. That used to seem like such a long way off, and it's now right around the corner. How are we doing this? We're working with all the localities, including Lexington and other watershed stakeholders, to identify and develop best management practices and other programmatic actions that will meet these goals. We are arranging workshops, training, researching grant and funding opportunities, and collecting data. We also work on water supply plans, stormwater management plans, solid waste plans, and recycling reports. Well, if that's not enough, we also work on several other projects and programs, including assisting our localities with comp plans. We helped Lexington a few years ago with their transportation chapter of your comp plan. Other services we provide include grant writing, GIS and mapping, broadband planning. We're working with Rockbridge County on another body grant application that's due at the end of this month. Anything our localities call on us to do, most likely we will help them do that. You've noticed I've mentioned region a lot, and regionalism. We try to work on a regional basis whenever we can, because we think that's a more efficient way. And we oftentimes combine Rockbridge, Lexington, and Buena Vista and work on projects within that subregion because our region is so large. So now let me turn the presentation over to Olivia so she can talk about our housing programs and how we are working with Lexington and other localities in the region to address all the housing issues that we're all facing. So thank you. And Olivia?
Thank you, Bonnie. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Olivia Rains, and I'm the Housing Program Manager at the CSPDC. So I'm really focused on all things housing, and then whatever other projects Bonnie decides I get to work on. But tonight I'm going to talk about our three major housing programs. So our PDC Housing Development Program, our Regional Housing Study, and then our First Time Home Buyers Program. So I'll start with the PDC Housing Development Program. It's by far the largest housing program that we have right now. So this is a pilot program that was funded by Virginia Housing, and funds went to all 21 PDCs across the state. And the goal of this program is really to promote regional approaches to housing planning and development, to help us build our regional housing stakeholder network, and then to fund the creation of new affordable housing units. So specifically at the PDC, we were tasked with providing gap funds to affordable housing developers towards the creation of at least 20 affordable units by July 1st, 2024. And so affordable here, I'm defining as 80% area median income or less. So just to give you an idea, for a family of four in the Rockbridge, Buena Vista, Lexington area is about $55,000 a year. So Virginia Housing awarded the PDC $2 million to do this project, and some of that is going towards sort of capacity building, so creating my role and then helping us pursue other regional housing programs. But the vast majority went to provide gap funds to affordable housing developers. So in March of this year, we announced $1.66 million in gap funds to 7 partners across the region that needed additional funding to bring their projects to fruition. So that's going to be 60 units of housing at 80% AMI or below, 35 for home ownership and 25 for rental. And 8 of those will be in Rockbridge County and are dedicated to the Greenhouse Village project. So just a few fun facts about that. It's going to Rockbridge Area Habitat for Humanity. The Greenhouse Village project is going to serve those at 80% AMI or below, but the families they have committed so far are around 60% AMI. So that's around 41,000 for a family of 4. And in terms of family sizes, the committed families are between 1 and 5. So a really wide range of families. And all of the units under this program are expected to be completed by July 1st, 2024. So the capacity that the PDC Housing Development Program gave us has really allowed us to explore other housing projects and programs. And one of those is our regional housing study. So in April of this year, we were awarded $200,000 through Virginia Housing's Community Impact Grant Program. We've never really completed a comprehensive regional housing study for the entire region before. So our goals are A, to get data in the hands of our local governments around housing, and then B, to provide actionable recommendations and strategies that we can act off of now that we have that data in our hands. So the study process is already well underway, and it will complete in spring 2024, which I know sounds a long way off, but the first year is really going to be about data analysis and focus groups, interviews. So really combining that quantitative and qualitative data, and then we'll have an interim data report after year 1. So you all will at least be able to see the numbers. And then year 2 will really be about crafting those strategies and recommendations at the regional level, at the partnership-based level, and then specific recommendations for each locality. So for Rockbridge County, for Lexington, for Buena Vista. So we are working with the Virginia Center for Housing Research on this. They are a statewide housing research agency, and they have done PDC studies before. They're doing a couple now, so they have a great track record with this. And then for the strategies piece, we're working with Housing Forward Virginia, which is a statewide housing policy and research agency. So during the whole study process, we are going to be prioritizing the Lexington, Rockbridge, Buena Vista area first due to just an expressed need for this housing information through talking to the 3 localities. So on August 24th, we're going to be down in Buena Vista doing focus groups with employers, realtors, lenders, service providers, the higher education institutions, just to get more context about the data we're finding and sort of help fit that into the study. And so we've also created a leadership group that's across a wide range of different industries, nonprofit, our community services boards, our housing authorities, to sort of guide the direction of the study and help craft its eventual recommendations. So if you want to know more about the study, reach out to me. We're going to have a November meeting, probably via Zoom, just for an update. If anyone's interested in where we're at in the study, you can just tune into that. And then lastly, just very quickly, I wanted to talk about our first-time home buyers program. So we all know it's not a great time to be a buyer right now, and that's especially true for first-time home buyers. It's really hard to be a first-time home buyer right now. So one of the tools we have to sort of help people along is our down payment assistance program. It's through the Department of Housing and Community Development, and it's $11,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance in the form of a forgivable loan. So it's 0% interest, 0 required payments. And the, I guess, string attached is that you stay in the home for 5 years. That sort of preserves that affordability. So if you stay in the home for 5 years, that $11,000 is wiped clean. And so that's just one way we can sort of help home buyers in the region. And we've had it at the PDC since 1998. We've served about 250 households during that time. And a lot of those have been in the Greenhouse Village project, actually. And we're hoping to connect them to these resources for these 8 units as well. So that's all I've got for housing. And I think I'm closing us out. So thank you all so much for your time. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you, Olivia. Members of council have questions. Mr. Alligood.
This is a question for Mrs. Riedesel. And there, perhaps you've heard, this is a light question, softball.
Thank you.
You perhaps heard in the news about Lexington being considered one of the youngest areas, median age in the country. And it was like 22 point something years. I forget what the point was, but in the country in there. And I was looking at some of the population numbers recently for Lexington. And my question, and Highland County, another one of your districts, was listed as the oldest in Virginia, not in the country. And the population that I saw given for Lexington was something like 7,700. And for Highland County it was like 2,200, those kind of numbers. So in Lexington, we get a lot of students.
Yeah.
And so do you know, were you part of how that calculation in the news when that came out for the youngest area? And the question really is, how many students are included in that number, if any?
Yes, I know when the census does, and Olivia's really our demographic guru, but the census does include, when they do the census, they count the students that are in that, going to those schools, not from where they're from. So it does skew. The same thing happens in Harrisonburg with JMU. Their numbers are skewed because of student demographics. So it is included. So that's probably why you show up as the youngest locality in the country. But that's the way the census defines it.
And Highland County doesn't have any colleges
Right.
to help them along
Right.
those
Yeah.
numbers.
They have more sheep than they have people in Highland County.
I heard that somebody said there are probably more sheep in Highland County. That's right. That's right. And so we don't have that. But I was just curious about if you were a part of those numbers.
No, that we get all of our data from other sources, like most primarily from the U.S. Census, but also from the Weldon Cooper Center and other organizations and demographic organizations like that. We don't make up the numbers. We get them from other sources and we compile it, and it's on our regional data center. I'm curious on the facts and figures. What does it say? Does it have the,
Doesn't have
it
median
doesn't have
age.
that? Okay. But we do have that available on our regional data center. I'll go back and look it up and see what it says, for your, average age.
It was a curiosity because it made the news
Uh-huh.
in there to do that. But thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question.
David.
First, a quick note of thanks for being here tonight, but also just over the course of the years, when there are certain projects or certain things come up here in Lexington or in the region, it's amazing how I hear and that the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission is a part of it. Like, it's just unreal. And it might be because the mayor's the chair and he brings that good news back to us. But honestly, it's amazing how much you all have accomplished.
Thank you.
But no,
Okay.
no,
Uh-oh.
that was a joke. No, in all honesty, Interstate 81, you talked about your role in that. And, for folks that have lived in the valley for 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, like I have lived here, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's a death trap. And as soon as we complete the $2 billion worth of improvements, they won't be enough. So we just implore you as residents of this wonderful place to keep working on our legislators that usually control the purse strings and have neglected Interstate 81 in our region and up and down the entire valley. So thank you for what you have done and keep working hard for all of the citizens of this region.
Thank you.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes, I have a question for Olivia Raines. Hi there. Hi. In regard to the first-time home buyers program,
Mhm.
does an individual have to be associated with Habitat for Humanity to be considered for that, or can they come as an individual
Yeah.
for their own place that they've
Mhm.
found?
They can come as an individual, and I would say the majority of our clients do come through Habitat. The tricky thing about the first time home buyers program is the income requirement. So you have to be at 80% AMI or below. And I had a conversation actually with Christina Ramsey from Buena Vista, and she was saying 80% AMI or below in Buena Vista is a very low number. And that's partially because of the student population. So there are families that are maybe 85% or 90% AMI, but they could still really use that first time home buyers assistance. And so typically the clients that we're most able to serve are Habitat, but another demographic is single parents. So people that have one income and one or two children typically fall into that. So that's one of the clients we're helping right now.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know.
Absolutely.
And Olivia, along the lines of the AMI, I think just to make sure what I heard you say, 55,000 for a family of four in our,
Yes, 54,700 for
Okay.
a family of four in this area. And
That-
those were just updated last month.
and that's AMI or that's 80% of it? That's
That's
AMI.
80%.
That's
of
80%.
AMI, Yes.
Okay. So a family of four,
100% is like 60 something. I'm not sure of the exact. number.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. We started throwing around the percentages plus or minus to make sure we get the right number. Because for an individual, do you know what the AMI is? If you don't, that's fine,
It's
but
like low
40.
40s, but I don't have the
Okay.
exact number. I just pulled family of four real quick before the
Gotcha.
meeting. So
because young folks move into the area, a starting teacher salary would qualify, for
Mhm.
instance, but obviously there are lots of folks that don't. That was part of our problem with Thompson's Knoll, trying to get things that fit the income parameters.
definitely let your local realtors and lenders know about the program. Because a lot of times it's just a matter of they don't know that this resource exists. And one thing on my list for 2022 is talking to more lenders and realtors, but spread the word for sure.
Do you have any pamphlets?
I have a brochure. I don't have them with me, but I can print some out and get them sent. to
Okay,
you. Mhm.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Or email's great
Yeah.
too.
That program is really small. We usually only serve about seven or eight people in a year. So it's not like we have a whole lot of money.
Right.
But we used to get a lot more money for that program and would serve like around 20 people a year in our region, but it is rather small.
So have you used up all of your funds for this year?
No.
We have not, just because it's so hard for first time home buyers to buy a house, period, right now, that we're not seeing a lot of clients. But I will say, if we go over our typical allocation, we can request competitive state funds. So sometimes we're still able to serve additional clients.
Good, thank you.
Just want to emphasize a couple of things that Bonnie and Olivia brought to us tonight. One thing is that the Afton Express and the Bright system is run out of a bus facility in Fishersville, which we are the owners of. And it's an amazing facility. The bottom half is a conference room and bay for the buses, and upstairs is office space. And we rent that to Augusta Medical. And the income from that has to be used for, because of a federal sanctioned building, the funds for that have to be used for the transit. And that's part of how Afton Express came about, because we had income and trying to find more things to do to have a more efficient and effective public transportation. Bonnie mentioned the match, or I'm sorry, mentioned the assessment. And every year we go through, and I know I love to tell the story. When I first came on council, I thought, oh, great, we can eliminate these several $1,000s that we send to the PDC. What's the PDC? It's the best deal in town. I'm not sure what the multiplier is now, but historically it's been something in the neighborhood of, for every dollar invested, our dollars usually go not to support really pay for staff or the building or any of the operations, but for matches for other grants. And it's about $27 for each dollar that we invest. We get a $27 return.
It's more like 36.
Okay, 36. Didn't want to exaggerate. So it sounds crazy, but I encourage you, if you're as fascinated with it as I am, to go to the website and see the things that are going on. The other piece, UVA and UVA Medical are huge partners with that Afton Express. And again, the collaboration and regional efforts have just been tremendous, and many hands make light work. That's why all of that can be completed. Did you say 26 employees? 16 employees?
We have 16 employees.
16, it feels like 26, but 16 employees that all these programs get tended to, implemented, and all of the municipalities supported. So thank you again for all that you do for our community, Lexington, Buena Vista, and Rockbridge County. And thank you for being with us tonight. Safe travels. And as I mentioned earlier, you're welcome to stay the rest of the evening, but with a journey of about an hour plus home, feel free to depart.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having us. And thank you for your continued support. Lexington has been a member since 1969, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I went from being a naysayer and how do we get out of the PDC to championing it. And I love some of the work. They're not just boring planners, I would say. If you look at the fact sheet, 48 miles of interstate, one natural wonder of the world. So clever marketing there as well. And the natural wonder of the world, if you're curious, is the natural bridge, not so you don't have to choose amongst the residents. Exactly, not the interstate. Exactly. Next item on our agenda is the Rockbridge Regional Public Safety Communications Center report. Kurt Berry, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, my name is Kurt Berry. I'm the director of the 911 Center. Thank you for inviting me tonight. And I was asked to give you a brief overview of our center. With that, it can be a busy place in there. And I would like to also invite everybody here, if you would ever like to come visit us, to actually see what we do. You're welcome to come down at any time and just give me a call. I'll give you the full tour, because you get to really see what goes on down there when we get the calls going on. But okay, so we'll just start off here. Again, we are a regional agency providing dispatch coverage for the city of Lexington Police Department, the Buena Vista City Police Department and Sheriff, the VMI Police Department, the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Office, 11 fire departments, including Lexington Fire Department, 7 rescue squads, including Lexington Fire and Rescue, after-hours emergency notification to numerous agencies throughout the county. And an example of that would be Lexington Public Works. If something were to be after hours, we contact whoever their on-call person is. There's a lot of those agencies that we do that kind of work for throughout the county. We have a staff of 20. That includes myself, one IT administrator, a radio 911 systems technician, a records clerk. We have 12 full-time dispatchers and 4 part-time dispatchers. Right now, we're a little understaffed. I'll get into that in a little bit. When we're fully staffed, we normally have 16 full-time dispatchers. Give you an idea of the amount of calls we handle. Last year, we handled 49,221 calls for service. So that's actual calls where we received a call and dispatch one of the agencies out to a call. This current year, we have handled approximately 31,000 calls for service and approximately 52,000 911 calls. That does not include administrative calls, non-emergency calls. I don't have a count for you on those, but those can be quite numerous. And then getting into you were talking about the 81 accidents. So just an idea, when we get an accident out there, you may have 20 to 30 people call in that same accident. And we have to answer all of those, every single one of them, because it does happen. We had an accident here, and because of that backup, you'll have an accident just down the road. So we have to answer every single one, and it gets quite busy in there when we get an accident like that. Let's see, we maintain a countywide radio system that serves all of the public safety agencies. It's about 7 different radio sites with towers and infrastructure. It's a multi-million-dollar system, about 900 users on it. And the IT administrator and the radio systems technician, myself, we all help maintain that. We are currently working to implement a new computer-aided dispatching software named SOMA. That will be utilized by all of our partner agencies. We have had some delays with this, but we are currently on track to go live in the beginning of November. This software is going to greatly improve our response time with, especially with fire rescue, and the recommendations it gives you as to the units going there. Our current software is pretty limited with that, and we have to rely sometimes on some standard operating procedures notes that we have on the side. So this will fully automate that and make it a lot quicker. All our partner agencies, including Lexington, have been coming to the meetings and giving their input on this software, and it's been a good team, and I feel it's going to be a good software, and it was a good buy. And just give an idea on the software, it is something new. It's a cloud-based technology, which a lot of places are going towards that. And you may say, well, cloud-based technology for a dispatch center, what if you go down? We have backup internet failovers at our center. And also, if we completely lose internet, it will still work and we can still dispatch. So it has that function in there. So it's an exciting software, and I'm looking forward to it. We're also scheduled to go live with our next generation 911 equipment in October. This equipment will bring more reliability to the center by providing fiber optic lines from geographically diverse phone switching centers into our center, thereby giving us redundancy we never had before with copper phone lines. So right now, what we have going into the center is just one pair of copper phone lines. And I don't know if you're aware of copper phone lines, but they're really not being maintained anymore. Everything's kind of going the way of fiber. So we do occasionally get problems with those lines. It's nothing that we can help. It's all on the phone carrier. So you may have seen those Everbridge messages go out. We're having a problem there. So it is a problem, but when we get these new lines in October, it's gonna greatly improve that. Because we'll have 2 fiber lines coming in different areas of the state. If one fiber line gets cut, the other one's gonna be 5 and we're gonna be good. Also with next generation 911, right now, if our center were to go down for some reason, like completely lose lines, what happens is we have to go set up a backup center somewhere. With the new 911 system, what happens is it automatically will cut over to the 911 center of our choice, which at this point is going to be Allegheny 911. So it automatically will send any calls over to them. And we have radio contact with them. So they can take the calls, tell us what's going on, and we can send it out to our people. So it's a big advantage of having that coming into our center. And the equipment costs approximately $150,000 that was provided to us by Virginia Department of Emergency Management through a grant. Also, the fiber lines were also provided by them, so it hasn't cost us any money. Let's see, I'm going to get into the understaffed that we have right now. We're currently very short-staffed. We normally have 4 people on a shift, but we are now running with a minimum of 3 dispatchers per shift. And at this point, we may have to go to 2 people on a shift if we lose any more people, which would be critically low staffing. We did get a raise this year to raise our minimum salary, and it was greatly appreciated by everybody. Last year's starting salary was $31,500, and that was raised to $34,500. And we have very dedicated staff in there. But we've lost probably about 5 or 6 people. Due to the economy, it's getting difficult for some of them, and they are finding higher paying jobs outside of dispatching. It's starting to become an issue, but we do what we can, and we've got ads out, and we do our best with that. But I do appreciate though that they raised this year again. I mean, it was something, and it helped bring us up to at least comparable to our surrounding partners. And with that, I'll open up any questions that you may have.
Dennis, go right ahead.
Director Barry, a couple of things. First off, do you have any dispatchers who work part-time, or is that something that you have considered?
So
Because
we do. We have 4 part-time dispatchers. Again, that's getting limited too, because they're very busy now. They do help us out occasionally here and there. The problem with part-time dispatcher is they have to go the full-time training.
right.
And it takes normally about 3 months. It could take a little longer for some people. So it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 months to train somebody, and that's full-time.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah, no, that's understandable. And then you mentioned that you might have to go down to two people on call on the phones. And you're right, that is kind of disturbing. Right now, though, if you mentioned a situation where there's an accident on 81 and you get 30 calls all of a sudden,
Right.
and somebody has to answer those, what happens in a situation like that, even with 3 people on the line?
so with 3 people, you just try to answer the call as quick as possible, determine if it's the same location. Usually you can get through them pretty quick. It's just, hey, what mile marker are you, or where are you? We can usually determine where they are.
So what is happening to the person who's calling it? I'm curious about their experiences. Are they getting a busy signal, or are they put on hold, or how does that work?
It'll ring. We have approximately 6 different trunk lines, so it'll keep ringing for them. If every single line is going, yeah, it might ring a little bit.
Okay.
Now with the next generation 911, we can set that to roll over though. If you get so many that can roll over to Allegheny.
Right.
And what we would have would be a radio hotline to them and they could quickly just relay to us on a radio.
And is that a reciprocal arrangement where they would list you as the backup?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And that's something we're going to have an MOU with them because we're probably going to be the first in the area to have the next gen 911. So when they do finally get it, we'll
Right.
have an MOU with them.
Right. And one other question, and this was brought up by a neighbor who was concerned about getting rid of their landline because they worried that if they had to call 911 and couldn't say their address, that 911 would not know what their address is. Is that the case? Just so people are aware what.
Yeah. So with the cellular technology now, it's greatly improved from where it was. So we used to have a lot of what we call phase one calls, which are just basically the cell phone will hit off a tower, and we used to just get the location of the tower.
Right.
Now with the phones, or the GPS is a lot better on them. We also have implemented something called Rapid SOS, which takes any kind of smartphone, and if you have like Google Maps or any kind of smart app on there with location technology, it will send us that location on there. And that is really a game changer, and it's helped us a lot in that.
Got it. So generally you can get.
Yeah,
service.
we can. Yeah.
Okay.
And when we've noticed, a lot of those copper lines are really dropping off now. There's
Right.
not very many anymore.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Alligator.
I did a tour at your location a while back, over a year now. And one of the demonstrations showed to me was a call. I think you made the call that particular day. And there's on one of the screens that one of the dispatchers was sitting in front of, there was a map, and it showed the location in the building where his call originated. Pretty good. Pretty good. And it was a cell phone that you were
Correct.
using.
That was Rapid SOS. Rapid SOS can sometimes get you down to the room in the building.
Now, I wasn't, needless to say, I was impressed in there. So I know you could find me in there and do it in there. Another question. One of the things that we've heard over a long time is the cost of this software and the system that's associated with that, and the problems that have happened over the years with previous vendors. Things for one reason or another didn't work out. And now we've got this SOMA system that you mentioned and whatnot. I was wondering what the cost of this new program is.
So SOMA, I believe the beginning cost was $79,000. And then it's a $50,000 a year maintenance fee, because it's sort of it's a software as a service at that point. The advantage of that is once we go to this is the hardware that we maintain, we won't have to maintain. It would be very little computer hardware we have to maintain anymore, since it is a cloud-based technology. So in the end, it'll be cost saving. And that's a very low price too, that we got for that software. 79,000 is a great price. I believe Tyler, which is the CAD we had last,
Right, that's who was doing it.
somewhere around $500,000.
It was huge.
And their maintenance, I believe, is in the area 30, somewhere in the 30s. So it's a little more for Soma because it's a software as a service, but it's, the hardware itself can get expensive, and you have to refresh that every 5 years or so.
Right. One of the budget items that we have as a city and other localities as well is to buy that hardware that I don't know what the lifespan is of the hardware, but it's not long.
It's not. It's
And
about
then-
5 years,
and
6
there-
years, 7
and-
years pushing it.
And overall, generally just an estimate of the hardware cost. I think you were showing me a radio, or the tech guy was showing me a radio, and this radio was like $3,000.
Yeah, the radios are a little different, but yeah, they're pricey. I do remember I go back a ways in this business, and I remember the $600 radios, but 3,000 is about the normal right now for the technology that we're using.
So we really do want it to work, don't we?
We do, and they do. They work well for us.
Anyway, so I'm glad that the software is aiming in the right direction now.
Yes, it is.
There. All right. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
David.
Mr. Berry, thanks for being here tonight and serving our community. One of the issues it seems that our entire community has is that when someone calls 911, that maybe a rescue squad or a fire department cannot answer the call. And then it takes some time and then it rotates to second, well, it might tone them twice and then it moves to the other department. And, that it's covered in the media. And, it's one thing to see statistics of 29% of calls not answered. But if you're the person calling, that's even more real. If you're calling and no one's coming, what does that do to your dispatchers when they attempt to dispatch a fire department or a rescue squad and they don't answer? Then they have to dispatch them again and they don't answer. I mean, is that taking your team's time and effort?
It is. It's very frustrating for our dispatchers. So I should have mentioned it, but we recently started medical dispatching, which was never done in our agency before. It is now required in Virginia, so we're at the point where it's required that you have to do CPR over the line. So we have started that this year. Full emergency medical dispatching is required in 2024. We're trying to get there before that. So we've already started our training for that. So we found that, when you're giving CPR instruction over the line, it's very frustrating when you're telling this person giving CPR and they're asking where they're at, and you're at 6-7 minutes, and yeah, it gets to them. It does. It really does.
I don't like having to ask that question, but thank you to your dispatchers for being on the line and providing that attention to the callers, and hopefully the rest of us can do what we need to do to make sure that people are dispatched and answer the calls.
Thank you.
Council members have any other questions? Kurt, I'd just echo what council has mentioned, and thanks for the service that you and your team provide. I know Leslie Hutch has been one of the dominant, consistent pillars of the 911 service, and always does it with a wonderful demeanor and a smile on her face and making sure things are taken care of. So congratulations on having a great team, and I hope that you find more to fill in the spots that you're lacking in now. But
Thank you.
we're grateful for the service to our community.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And hope that everyone will make an opportunity to join you on the field trip invitation. Nothing replaces going out and seeing it in action and
Absolutely. Yeah.
what it's all about.
Happy to have you all out.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, and you are welcome to depart from us this evening if you'd like, or welcome to stay for the meeting as well.
Thank you very much.
Certainly. There are no public hearings this evening. Next is consideration of the minutes, which were part of your packet. Hope you had a chance to review those. And unless there's an objection, I would ask that those be approved as presented. And express our thanks to Janie for getting those to us. Next item on the agenda, citizens' remarks and comments. Love to hear from our community. Is there anyone who would like to speak to City Council this evening? Hearing the dull roar of the HVAC, I will close the public comments, citizens' remarks and comments at 7:52 and move straight to the consent agenda and ask for council's consideration.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you all very much. And of course, consent agenda has no discussion. I'd ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Alligood,
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler,
Aye.
Mr. Ayers,
Aye.
Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Not aware of any unfinished business and would embark upon the boards and commission reports. The Blue Ridge Resource Authority. We did meet end of July 25th. We did not have a great deal of business, just approved our got an update on the closing of cell 1 and the opening of cell 2 approval. Otherwise, just very approval of the finance report, being able to pay the bills and everything is in good repair. We're a little low on the budgeted number of amount of tonnage, but the actually dollars in the door were a little bit stronger. So we're the previous fiscal year looking good. If you have any questions, please alert me, but otherwise I'll call on Ms. Strong for the Main Street Lexington report.
Sure. Main Street Lexington will have a board retreat on Wednesday, August 10th from noon to 4 p.m. at Sunnyside House at Kendall. And that's all I have.
Sounds like fun. Anything exciting on the agenda or to be
Just
determined?
a review last year and plan for next year.
Very good. Very good. Planning Commission, Ms. Strong.
Planning Commission met last Thursday on July 28th, and we unanimously approved a certificate of appropriateness and a site plan application by Perkins and Orison for an addition to the rear of the University Cleaners Building located at 534 East Nelson Street. And the Planning Commission continued our discussion of an ordinance for planned developments for mixed use. The purpose of the ordinance is to allow and to even encourage development of 3-acre or larger parcels for multiple uses in our entrance corridors. In particular, it encourages commercial or retail activity on the bottom floor and residential above it. Currently, our zoning does not allow for residential use in the C2 commercial district. We are having an open work session on this topic next Thursday, August 11th, during our regular meeting right here at 5 p.m. And we are seeking input from the public on the ordinance. Those who might be most interested in reviewing the draft ordinance, which is on the city website, and providing comments are developers, property owners in our 2 entrance corridors along East Nelson Street and South Main Street, residential neighbors that abut these 2 areas, and any individual interested in the future development of the city. So I hope you'll spread the word. We would like to have people review this ordinance and get feedback before we finalize it and bring it to council. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Don't hear any questions, but I think a very appropriate and positive move in looking at that change. So good work, and look forward to the final result. As has been stated many times before, it'll be better with public input. Next, Regional Tourism Board.
Tourism won't meet again until Wednesday, August 17th, but I did have a few things to mention. First off, it's guest bartender tonight at Southern Inn, and Jim Jones and Ranger Jesse Carter are pouring on behalf of Friends of Natural Bridge. And it may not be too late to enjoy one of their signature cocktails, the Total Eclipse. So check that out if you get a chance. Tomorrow, Fridays Alive has Mad Max and the Groove Train Band from 5:30 to 9 in Davidson Park. And finally, on Saturday, August 6th, from 5 to 10 p.m., it's the first annual Rockbridge Battle of the Bands at Glenmorey Park. And this is to benefit Main Street Buena Vista, and proceeds will go towards the beautification of downtown Buena Vista. So it's a good event. There'll be half a dozen or so bands, and then they will judge and get prizes for the best band. So check it out. And that's it.
Good. All kinds of different music. Do you know, or?
Yeah, actually, very, very varied music. You have country, metal, you name it. So it's a wide swath of types of music.
Soup to nuts.
Something for everybody.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. Any questions for Dennis? Hearing none. Raro, Mr. Ziegler.
The RARO Board of Directors convened last night, but we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't have a meeting. But there was some very, some discussion. No action could take place, but we did talk about the fact that RARO has launched its newsletter, a monthly newsletter that was sent out 1 August. And so we are truly now developing a database of email addresses that we have collected over the years. And so we'll send everyone the newsletter. It'll have all kinds of important information, and people, of course, can opt out if they choose that they don't wish to have that in their inbox. As you may know, we did we did co-ed softball during the summertime. We also did kind of a women's softball pickup during the summer. We're going to do co-ed softball again in the fall. It was a lot of fun. It was a big hit, no pun intended. And we just want to continue it on. There was great participation, and that continues to be, RARO's goal of having more offerings for more people in our area. And I'm glad that we're pushing our executive director, but he is a go-getter and he's doing it with staff, and it's awesome. In addition to our normal offerings in the fall, such as cheerleading and soccer and football, which all those numbers are pretty strong right now, which is exciting. We will also try to have some clinics for softball and baseball to, again, the kids that really love those sports, that they can participate in maybe just a weeknight clinic for an hour, just to get a little bit of time throwing or hitting or fielding or pitching or something for the in the off season, which is exciting. And then I really want to uplift pickleball. It continues to be, it was already thriving in our area with the Rockbridge Pickleball Club, but kind of coming together with RARO, we are able to, really promote it with the great foundation that the club already has in place. And so they're playing several times a week at Rivermont and then at Maury River Middle School right now. There's discussion of a kind of a competitive league, even not just where where you're more keeping score and standings and everything. But I'll tell you, this region needs to be thinking about permanent outdoor courts at some time, because this is growing and it's going to continue to grow. And some of our neighboring jurisdictions have put in pickleball courts, and we are so appreciative of the gyms that we have access to. We really, really are. But this is going to be a really, it's going to just continue to grow. And we've got so many adults that are being served by the pickleball club and now RARO. And so I hope that as we think about any additions, whether it be in Buena Vista or the county or here in Lexington, that we think about the opportunity to have a court or two, because it's great. So that concludes my report, but I can take any questions.
So where is the adult softball taking place?
It's been actually during the summertime, it rotated between, we played in Glasgow, we played in Buena Vista, and we played here in Lexington. And so I think as we take registrations for the co-ed playing in the fall, Brubaker gets used a lot for your football and your softball, because the football field, you'll kind of take over the softball field at Brubaker in the fall. And so I would suspect that we'll look more towards Buena Vista to continue to play softball, or Glasgow, because those fields are nice when they're maintained and taken care of. Buena Vista, obviously at Glenmorey Park, their priority is, camping, and there's a lot going on there. But Glasgow's a really nice facility that and we have a lot of folks that play from Glasgow, and that's where it's happened historically, actually. And so that's a great place. So if you register, it's a co-ed team. We'll put out the schedule, but I think you can expect, those fields again to be used.
Yeah, and as we look at Jordan's point and even the sports facility at the high school, I think that we should keep in mind that we do need additional pickleball courts places.
Could pickleball be offered at Brubaker Complex on the basketball court? I mean, certainly you'd have some conflict. You couldn't run basketball and pickleball at the same time, but I'm not sure what the demand of the basketball court is up there. And would that be a space? Have you all thought about that? Or
You could, essentially with the right equipment, the netting, you
Mhm.
definitely, you could. You need a flat space. To do it right, you want your lines, you want
right.
you want it set up. But you're exactly right. You could. That's the great thing about pickleball. You need the netting and then the proper lines, and you want it to be a safe surface. And so that basketball court has been resurfaced. It's a very nice surface, and it actually, you're right. It's not used during the day, but I'll tell you, in the evenings, you definitely do see people playing basketball.
Right.
Actually at all of our basketball courts here in the city, Waddell and Richardson Park, and
Right.
then also at Brubaker. So we're fortunate, but it's definitely a possibility.
And is the softball field or baseball field at Waddell being utilized and maintained?
It is not, it was used for, what is it, T-ball or intra, but it's maintained. I mean, it's not an ideal location for anything beyond your smallest beginner athletes to play softball or baseball.
Gotcha. Thank you. Fun stuff in athletics. Threshold, Miss Alexander.
Yes, Threshold was also challenged with the summer issue of not having a quorum for our last meeting, but there were enough of us there to have a healthy discussion about housing, of course. And we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the regional housing study to be completed before we really get involved in anything in particular. But we're bouncing around some ideas in regard to a developer out of Christiansburg who focuses on affordable housing opportunities and either take over properties that need a management firm or developing an entire property themselves and managing it. And we had a discussion about the map that we received that had the vacant parcels in Lexington on it. And these were the undeveloped, regionally zoned land map parcels. We talked about the Planning Commission workshop that you're going to be having and encouraging folks who were there to to attend next week. We talked about future development on some of the vacant land, the unused land, of future development of that for housing or senior daycare, single family homes that would be also affordable, just lots of different ideas. We talked a lot about the prevalence of housing in the area that WNL and VMI parents are buying versus local families who are in desperate need of housing themselves. We talked about the Lexington building supply property and the development of that. And we are not going to have our August meeting, and we will wait until September to meet again. And I want to publicly put out a plea that if anyone is interested and has a real thirst for affordable housing in this area, to consider joining the Threshold board. We now have 3 vacancies instead of 2. So we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Alligood, Maury Service Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Maury Service Authority, MSA, met this past end of the month, and we did have a quorum. And one of the things that came out of the meeting was this report that I keep mentioning here about the submittal to the state FCAP for the money that's coming. And the latest information that we have now is that we're still looking at hearing back from the state on the application that MSA has made for 20 million-ish types of dollars for fixing the water plant for August, September. They've now added, it was supposed to be August where we'd hear it. Now we're hearing August, September range. So we didn't get it, and fingers crossed it'll even be September, but we're still in the mix for it. So we don't have any feedback that tells us that we need to submit any additional things. All our paperwork is in proper order, so that's good. Another piece of information is about the influent flows to the MSA. The MSA measures influent flows from the city and from the county. And from the graphs, and it's presented in the form of a graph. And I'll just hold it up. It's a bar graph, and you can go online and see it. But the point that I'm making is that it looks like our lining of the sewer, the sewer flows has started to pay off. The peaks are lower when it rains with our relining program, fixing the leaks in our pipes. So that's positive. This is the first time I'd seen the peaks lower. And so that's good. That's what we wanted. That's and we'd like to see them even lower, but it appears that it's going the right way with the $1 million that we spent to reline these things. And I think we have appropriated or approved an additional $1 million. So it's a total of 2 million altogether that I think has been dedicated to fixing the leaks in the sewer pipe to reduce further the flows that we pay for that go to the MSA. Every gallon of water from the city is paid for when we get our bill from the MSA. So it's much to our advantage to reduce flows that aren't needed, the leaks from rainwater. End of report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Alligood? I would say 10 to 15 years ago, city council made a serious effort towards addressing infrastructure and seeing some of the payoffs for it, get a lot more success from $1 million investment than the 50,000 I think we were doing towards I&I on an annual basis that we budgeted for probably from 2008 to a couple of years ago. So
In addition, we bought that excavator
Mhm.
to help do this work.
right.
Yeah, I mean, so we're serious about fixing this as best
Exactly.
we can.
And the good news is we're seeing results.
And yes, and the graphs show that. Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you, sir. I offer no report this evening and we'll go straight to the city manager for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we're all trying to get prepared to experience a total eclipse, so I'll try and keep it short, but I'd like to yield a couple minutes of my report to the Chief of Police, if I may.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chief. Welcome.
Good
Re-
evening, Mayor.
Recovered from your snow cone making on Tuesday?
Yes. Still a little chilly every now and then when I need to go outside. But it's good seeing everybody, council members, city manager. Just want to give you a brief update since I last presented to you all in May about our revamped active shooter response and protocol in light of Uvalde, Texas. As you may recall, at the end of that presentation, I did express my interest to re-explore the school resource officer program because of grant opportunities that were becoming available. Since that time, grants have become available and we have filled it out with the state. And just this Tuesday, we were advised that we were awarded the state grant for a school resource officer. At the risk of sounding like an infomercial, I do want to say that this grant presents a unique opportunity because this is the first time that the state will be paying for guaranteed the first year 100% of the school resource officer salary. On top of that, being that the school resource officer program will be a new program for the city of Lexington. Every year after that, for the 4 years, even though we are guaranteed a grant for 4 years, we have to reapply. And we reapply because of any increases in the officer's salary, as well as the revenue and the budget for the state for them to determine if they are going to pay 100% of the salary or if it will be a match up to only 25% from the locality. So with that being said, if we do decide, the city leaders and other appointed officials and stakeholders and community members decide, let's try the school resource officer program, it's paid for 100% after the first year. You decide it's not a good fit, we don't want it anymore, we just don't reapply and we go back to business as usual. So that's that risk-free guarantee that I believe is a good opportunity. So with that, we know that there are some questions and concerns about a school resource officer program. So going into that, the city manager, the school superintendent, Mrs. Walters, as well as myself and the school director of operations, Jason White, we came together to decide how do we come up with a plan to be as transparent and have open communication with all key stakeholders and community members that have a say in this program. So with that, Rebecca Walters, the superintendent, has decided to create a presentation for August 10th, next week, to present to the school board. Part of that presentation, I will discuss the school resource officer's roles and expectations should we all decide to implement that here. More importantly, I will be there to actively listen to not only the school board members, but the parents and the teachers about what they want to see from a school resource officer and how best we can fit that program into the needs of the city of Lexington community to be a benefit to all of us. On top of that, we have a save the date for August 25th for an already scheduled back to school night that historically has a high turnout. At that time, I will make myself available again to talk about the school resource officer program to the parents, the staff members, and any community member that has an interest, actively listening to what they want to see from the program and address any questions, concerns, or issues. After that, we will regroup with the city manager and discuss on when next to bring back those concerns or questions or issues and how we plan to implement the best school resource officer program that is the best fit for the city of Lexington to you all, the city council members. So again, I do want to say this is a great opportunity that if there was ever any thoughts on trying out the school resource officer program, that it's an opportunity 100% paid first year. After that, we review, we revise, or we decide this is not good and everything's well. We don't have to go forward after that. That's the end of my brief update. If anybody has any questions or concerns. Yes, sir.
Chief Green, just one, I'm curious, do you envision this being a new hire? Like, could you feasibly hire somebody and then do the training that's typically required for new officers, or is this likely to be a existing officer?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm glad you brought that up. No, part of the school resource officer program, because we know it has to be an experienced officer, part of the grant is they have to have at least 3 years
Okay.
as a law enforcement officer and go to the basic SRO school. On top of that, my vision, I don't want just a 40-hour basic SRO school. I want to do trauma-informed training, the advanced de-escalation training for the officer, and team brain trauma training for those school resource officer as well.
Right. So if we tested this out for a year and decided it didn't work, obviously, since we're understaffed, generally, we would have a job for that person if it wasn't a school resource officer job. So we wouldn't be putting someone's job at risk if we didn't continue with the program. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I guess just adding on to that, I do have some concern about backfilling that person's spot since we have been having difficulty hiring. But so this person, this resource officer, then they will report through the police department, not through the school system. They're part of the police force. Is that right?
Absolutely. They will continue to be a Lexington police officer. They report to us. They just work with the schools and we collaborate and coordinate with the schools. We'll also work with the schools. Right now, I have 2 interested individuals that will go to the basic SRO school, and then I will sit down with school administration and we'll discuss if we decide to go forward with one SRO, which officer they believe would be the best fit. So together we'll decide and we'll have routine conversations throughout the school year. If there's any issues, if everything's great, if there's anything we need to improve. And at the end of every school year, we always have the option of possibly switching out the SRO with another trained SRO that we'll always have available.
Okay, so for when that person's on vacation,
Yes.
from the get-go, we plan to have a backup to cover them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then when we are fully staffed, will this person require a new police car? I mean, we'll have to get an additional police car? Or?
No, ma'am. I've already talked to the city manager about that, and we will not add an additional police car if we were to, after being fully staffed, if we were to add an additional officer, we would not add an additional expense of another take-home vehicle.
Okay. And right now, as it's proposed, you're expecting to have one resource officer working at both schools?
Yes, their primary responsibility will be at Liburn Downing Middle School with going daily over to Waddell Elementary School. Again, to see how that works with one officer. And at the end of the year, when we review how everything works, if you guys said this was awesome, this was fantastic, we need another one, then that can be part of the reapplication for the grant to possibly get a second if we want it.
And when Lilburn was originally designed, there was an office for a resource officer, but then it at one point got taken up by other people. Is that still available for the resource officer?
According to Superintendent Walters, that office is still available, so it's still set up for a school resource officer.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks to your officers for being at National Night Out on Tuesday night. It was
was a
fun
lot
to
of
see
fun.
everybody. It was cool. It was a good night. The rain didn't affect things at all out there. So
Oh, and
thanks.
you didn't spill any of your snow cones.
I know.
Yes.
That was what I was worried about. Hey, as far as this program, just so I clarify, is it if the program goes forward or because you said if, but it also, you said we plan to have the best SRO program. Like, is the school board aware that we applied for this grant and I guess I'm a little bit taken aback, just because it's not in our budget. You had presented previously. We've done this. I think I've had 5 presentations from 3 or 4 police chiefs about SRO programs. And so I'm just kind of unsure because of all the parental feedback we've already received over the years. Where do we kind of stand on that?
So
And-
nothing is final.
Okay.
That's why we're having these open and courageous conversations. That's why on August 10th, we are going to present to the school board. But before we applied for the SRO grant, just like in May, when I presented to you I wanted to explore the possibility of a grant. Superintendent Rebecca Walters discussed an MOU and that we were going to apply for the grant. The school board did give her the approval for us to go ahead and explore and apply for the grant. So now when we were already planning on having these open discussions, we did not know that the state was going to turn around and award us so quickly. They did so in like less than 2 weeks, which is unheard of. So we got the award on Tuesday when we already set the date for August 10th, just to continue the conversation. So we would be prepared for when the grant was awarded or not. So again, this is no commitment. We're still talking. If it's not a good fit by our city elected officials, the appointed officials, community members, parents, stakeholders, we don't do it. But if there is any interest or let's try it out, 100% risk-free trial, that after a year, we don't have to continue it and nothing changes.
You mentioned at the beginning, didn't intend to sound like an infomercial, but you're
Right.
getting close. Chief, 2 questions. When you talk about 100% salary being covered with the grant, I'm mindful that there are benefits, insurance,
It covers the fringe benefits, insurance,
VRS.
everything. We had
Okay.
to submit that along with the grant, and we got that from our finance director.
Okay.
So we'll cover 100% of everything.
And what is the starting salary for this,
So
or what we applied for?
we looked at the starting salary of one of the highest paid potential SRO that we're thinking about, and it would be about with fringe benefits, it was about $72,000.
Okay,
And that would be paid for. The grant would pay for, I believe, up to like $115,000
okay,
for salary. So we are covered.
very good. Very good. Are we approved for 72 or we're approved up to 115?
Up to $115,000. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So the chief will be in the schools regularly.
I didn't want to say that, sir, but yeah, might be a part-time job.
And that there may be some concern that, a starting teacher starts around 40,000 and they have 18 kids with them all day long. And then they have the SRO who doesn't actually have a classroom, but is making a lot more. So just,
Now,
Heads up.
again, part of the role of a school resource officer is that they will be mandated to teach classes, obviously not math or science, but it will be on drug awareness, crime prevention and safety, social media dangers, anti-gang prevention. So they're going to have to teach at least 4 to 6 times throughout the year. And then again, they are there as informal counselors, guidance counselors, mental health, to connect them with resources to help out when needed as part of the school family and community.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes, when school is closed for holidays, summer, whatever, will they be back on regular patrol?
Absolutely. They don't get off when school's closed. So they help out. They will fill in. And as you see, part of like our junior summer police camp, school resource officers will be the primary ones that, since they already have that relationship with the children throughout the school, we will continue it throughout the summer. So it's almost like you don't get a break from them. But yes, the officers will be helping out on the regular police duties.
And thanks so much for Saturday for the back to school event.
Yes,
That was a great success.
It
Thank you.
was. Lots of fun. Thanks.
Other questions for the chief? Well, we look forward to this topic progressing to the school board and their outcome, and then feedback from families. I know, just as a precursor, you may have heard or experienced the conversation frequently is that no objection to SROs, but if I had an extra $72,000, I'd love to get school counselors or aides in the classrooms to work with those children as well. So it's different programs, and with the Uvalde and some of the other circumstances that have happened, this is a much higher financial profile for the state and federal folks. So,
Absolutely. And I will just say that it's always great having extra counselors, but again, this is the opportunity where the state will pay for
correct.
that school resource officer. And if I could just indulge you for a quick minute, just to give you an update on a personnel matter, where you all know Lieutenant Frost, who most recently served as our interim chief of police, has officially put in his retirement papers after 25 years of service with us. His last day will be August 27th. And if you didn't know, just to give a quick background on him, he started his law enforcement career with Roanoke County Police Department back in 1997. And then he came to us in 2004, and he served in the U.S. Marine Corps. So we are planning to have a retirement celebration for Lieutenant Frost on August 26th. And once we get more details about that, we will send out an invitation shortly on that. Thank you all.
And Chief, thank you for being with us, and also thank you for the invitation. I know all of council received for lunch with the junior
Police camp.
police
Yeah,
camp.
They're
So,
looking forward to it. They're excited.
outstanding, outstanding. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all.
Chief Green does such a great job that it's intimidating trying to follow her up. But a quick update on Spotswood, really no update there from Echelon Development. They did the geotech testing, but they have not received the report. We have provided them with the phase 1 environmental report that we were obligated to perform, and that's a clean site. The Alta survey is finished, but we need a little bit more title work, yes, title work, and then we'll be finished with our obligations. So things are on track, moving as they should. We talk about grant writing from time to time, and I just thought I'd give you a little update. Many of our staff write grants. Our HR director, Robbie Bailey, has applied for a $7,000 grant for safety equipment for fall prevention while working in manholes. Now, we wouldn't think of all these little things that our staff does every day, but how would you get somebody out of the bottom of a manhole? You're not going to push them up, and it's pretty hard to reach down and pull them up. So part of the equipment would be extrication equipment, so you could hoist them up out. You know, you never hope, you hope this never happens, but things happen. So that's a grant we've applied for. Maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. It's good equipment. Evergreen Cemetery, the contractor has advised us that they will be in next Monday to start putting the fence up along the frontage of Evergreen. I won't guarantee that, but that's what we've been told, next Monday. Juvenile Center, we had Tim Showalter with us several meetings ago to give an update or brief on the center. And as you may recall, we pay for the expenses of that center based on the percentage of bed nights that we use. Just as an FYI, in July, we used 0. So, you know, we pay for very little of that center, but it's always available to us. A little update on the fire department. Both the fire department and police department have continued to work on the community walks initiated by the police department, but LFD does participate. On the 31st of July, the department extracted 2 individuals on I-81 from an overturned pickup truck, and luckily there were just very minor injuries. You may also look, I sent you an email. The chief knows about this too, but both our fire department and police department participate in a locally made video on seatbelt safety that the DMV has put together. It's online. You can look at the links in your email. The department deployed our ladder truck at Mohawk plant in Glasgow to work a fire in the roof of the loading dock. And we don't send that out often for that type of activity, but it was needed at that point in time. On a sad note, many of the department attended the funeral of Paige Esteminger, who was a life member and past captain of the rescue squad. Some of you may have known that individual. From the police department, another success was the 100 backpacks that were handed out with school supplies away at the second back to school event at Richardson Park. And as you heard with the retirement of Lieutenant Mike Frost, the department will be down 3 officers now. And Councilmember Strawn, you mentioned that. We've all been aware of that. It's a continuing issue we deal with. And even with those 3 positions down, one of the people we sent through the police academy has some requirements yet to fill before that individual will be released from the street. So we're still struggling with just trying to find folks. If we don't have that person follow up and pass the police academy, we would be down 4 officers until this time next year. Because the next training time we get in is January. That's 6 months. And then we have 2 months on the street. So it's always these days a continuing challenge, if you will. Deputy Chief Fitzgerald and Sergeant Burks attended active shooter training in Harrisonburg. And as the chief mentioned earlier, that's something we're continuing to focus on. The mayor mentioned the summer camp, and I had the opportunity with the chief to go out earlier this week and see those young people in Jordan's Point Park. And boy, are they having fun and learning. It's just really energizing to be with them, frankly. Boxerwood was there. They were going out into the river looking for invertebrates and nymphs and other creatures and crustaceans. And they were just so thrilled to show us all the little critters that they'd found. And these kids, 10 years old, could name off a dozen of them that I had no idea what they were, but they were just thrilled. They've been participating in that activity, rope climbing, rock climbing, and through the courtesy of partners like Boxerwood, BMI, and WNL, we can really present these really exciting opportunities to our young people. Ages 7 to 12, 19 are participating in the camp. It's just really great. I compliment the chief and all the supporters of that effort. Just a little update from DPW, something we don't want to hear, but I ended up pretty well, is one of our employees, Dave McCormick, was working at 4 in the morning, as sometimes they have to, and noticed a suspicious vehicle circling the DPW yard. He called 911. The police became involved with our camera footage and with other information. They were able to track this individual down, and they in fact did steal from us. So that individual is being prosecuted, and Mr. McCormick has received a Police Citizenship Award or citation from the chief and from our HR director, Robbie Bailey, just for taking the time and being attentive to watch out for, our facilities and our resources, and being attentive in there. The Veterans Memorial downtown is something we focus a lot on, and you may or may not have seen that it's recently been receiving a refresher. And I want to give some compliment to Bob Hopkins, who's with the VFW. He is chairing that effort and working with our localities. The county owns the actual memorial. The city owns the property around it. John Adamson is involved as the developer. WNL is involved. Main Street Lexington has envisioned a project there. So that has been cleaned by Ethan Williams, who's the owner of Living the Dream Home Improvements. He washed the surface of the whole memorial. Public Works has been out there jetting the drainage that is below the memorial and through to the city streets. So the drainage is working well all the time. We will also look at trimming up some of the shrubbery near that, maybe even removing or replacing some of that shrubbery to better enhance and focus on that memorial that's important to all of us. 911 CAD system Kurt handled. The West Nelson Street Bridge, we received the bids for that structure, and the low bid was $1,897,893. So it is under budget by just a bit there, and that will proceed fairly quickly, we hope. Skate park update. Of course, we all know Skate Rock will be held this Saturday at 6 o'clock with several bands and other activities. And for those attending the event, they're using the park. Please remember, a score of volunteers are undertaking the work to restore the park and promote events there. However, we have recently seen that some users have been tempted to make their own personal improvements there. And we discourage that because it's not what we want to see there. Sometimes they're not put together completely in a safe fashion, or they just detract from the other pieces of equipment there. So we ask those people who want to be involved, get involved with the Greater Rockbridge Skate Park Coalition and put your time and effort and funds into that instead of building your own obstacles on the park. For Swimming has reported that they've had a good summer. They've issued 126 season memberships, which is 25 more than last year. Probably won't sell any more, or very few more now. The season's almost over. That was a $30,000 revenue line for them, though. However, they've seen expenses a little on the high side, but expenses and revenues together will probably offset, so that the potential for, if you will, not paying for the expenses of the outdoor pool will be somewhat on the low side. We'll have some expense, but minimal. Now, I was reflecting on that, and I want to share with you. It occurred to me that I was disappointed that we wouldn't recover all of our expenses. On the other hand, how many of our recreation programs do we consider, the fees from the program covering all the expenses? It doesn't happen in Kids Place. It doesn't happen in Jordan's Point Park. So while we've always sort of, at least in my mind, said, well, pools need to pay for themselves, there's a lot of operating costs there. We don't expect that of our other facilities and never have. So again, I was a little disappointed. I hope the community isn't disappointed that the revenues don't cover the expenses, but it's a great service to the community that we have to take in context, I believe, as a recreation, recreation opportunity, if you will. Registrar office, there's improvements taking place there, and Jackie Harris reports that the renovations in the former community meeting room are occurring at a good clip in order to be ready for the early voting in September. September 23rd is early voting, so it comes quicker than we think. Public Works staff is doing the work in-house. They're making the physical changes to the space, including secure storage space, the office space itself, a front counter, and ADA compliant features. The electrical requirements have been met and data drops are underway. And overall, this is another successful project in the making. So it's turn around pretty quick, happening right away, so we can get ready, and everyone in the elections area, the Board of Elections, the registrar are very excited about this. And that's all I have, unless you have some questions.
Members of councils have any questions for the city manager? Hearing none, call on the city attorney.
No report this evening, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jared. New business, have an amendment to the Rockbridge Regional Jail Commission Agreement. It was in your packet. I don't know if council members have any questions. If not, would ask for your consideration.
I move to approve the amendment to the Rockbridge Regional Jail Commission Agreement.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Alexander?
I just want to mention that in the body of the old part of the agreement, there was a signature for Charles Phillips as the mayor who signed it. But then on the next page, it was the city manager, I guess, John Doan, who signed it.
Mhm.
Was that what was supposed to happen? You don't know?
I don't know how it was supposed to be signed those many years ago. It apparently was legal, and we've been operating.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think it was countersigned by the administrators and the
mayor.
legislative,
Okay.
or the
Elected
elected. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that mention of the mayor was just under the notice provisions. If for whatever reason there had to be a notice to the municipalities, you would notice the mayor directly.
Okay.
it's always interesting to go back and look at these agreements that were crafted however many years ago and seemingly made sense at the time, and in some instances make no sense now. But this, with the modifications, I think will serve us well and better serve our community. So with that, unless there are any other questions, I'd ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Ayers.
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Alligood.
Aye.
Ms. Strong.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I encourage all to lend their support to the southern end and the Friends of Natural Bridge State Park, and check out the total eclipse. And not aware of any other business to come before us this evening, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.